Welcome back to our fun little time here, Master's College Exegesis in Genesis, Lecture 12, Part 2 on page 2. And I like learning from the Bible.
Amen.
It's my favorite way to learn about God. It's the only way you really need to learn about God. Verse 12 there. And Arphaxad lived 5 and 30 years and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years. It says it again. And begat sons and daughters. That sounds, hold on a second. That's the same as the other guy. Just notice that, right? 403, 403.
430.
No. Look on verse 13.
Oh,
403. 403. That's interesting. What are the chances of that? And begat sons and daughters. 16. And Eber lived 430 years, and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 403 years again. No, 430 years, and begat sons and daughters. That's kind of weird there. A lot of 430s, 43, 403, 403. What's this 43 thing? Is there a secret code here for us? God's trying to communicate with us? The Bible, yeah.
Amen.
It's aliens. These verses give the genealogy from Arphaxad to Peleg, in whose days the earth was divided. Whereas verses 18 through 25 give the genealogy from Peleg to Terah, just so as you know. He says, it is obvious in comparing these verses here that patriarchal longevity began to decline immediately after the flood, which we would agree. So let's look at these. Noah lived 950 years. It's about the same as the guys before. But Shem lived only 600 years. Arphaxad 438 years. Salah 433. And Eber 464. And it's still sharp decline took place after Peleg, as maybe we'll see. Adding up the numbers, he says, in these verses, therefore, the record indicates that Peleg was born 101 years after the flood. This probably was the year of the Babel dispersion. That's how they get the name with Peleg. We'll see that in a second. This probably was here. Some may doubt that a single century would be a long enough period of time for the population to grow from the 8 survivors of the flood to the substantial number of people that were involved in the building of Babel and its tower. But he showed that you could, and I think that's what he does here. Shem, Ham, and Japheth had a total of 16 listed sons. There may well have been others not listed, and even Noah may have had other unnamed children after the flood, and presumably at least as many daughters. Thus, the first generation after the flood had at least 32 people, that first generation. And if you increase by 533%, which is what that was, well, which is an increase of 533% over the original 6 parents, to 32. So that's how they get that. So 533, there it is. Okay, assuming this proportion remained the same, so 533% interest, about 5-time increase. And that's a conservative assumption. Then the second generation had 171 people. Third generation had 912, making a total of at least 1,112 mature adults, if you add all those together, at the time of the dispersion at Babel. I thought there'd be a lot more than 1,120 people there at Babel. I'll be thinking about 100,000, 200,000, a million, I don't know, a lot. So that's interesting numbers you got there. It's a growth rate of only 8% annually would produce a population of 9,000 in only 100 years. I guess that's including the children. I don't know. That last part I didn't understand why he said that. I don't understand the math there, but that's what he said. So it might be a lot less than we thought. 18. Let's do every other verse. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu.
And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years and begat sons and daughters.
And Reu lived 230 years and begat Serug.
And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters.
And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor.
And Serug lived after he begat Nahor years and begot sons and daughters.
And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah.
And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters.
So you might read this and go, so what, so what? Well, but you can see here a decline. First, the actual names of the patriarchs from Peleg to Terah were not given in Genesis 10, so are found here for the first time. The names in order are Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nahor, and Terah. Each presumably had other sons and daughters not listed. So I wrote the number of years lived by these patriarchs were Peleg 239, Reu 239, Serug 230, Nahor 148. If you go back to the other ones, it was Selah 433, Eber 464, and now you got Peleg. Whoosh, big drop.
Yeah.
So there's a 200-year drop just from that generation, and that's when the earth was divided. Some think there was a continental shift. I think that's what we talk about here. Is that what it is? We'll see. If there is no great problem with respect to the development of a sufficient population to build the Tower of Babel, there is still less difficulty in understanding how there could have been an adequate population at the time of Abraham. I don't know if you understand that. Let's go on. According to the record, when Abraham was 75 years old, it had been 367 years since the flood, and thus about 267 years since the dispersion after Babel. Assuming the record of Noah's grandsons was complete, we have noted that there was probably an increase, 533%. The generation was 33 years. That's what he says a generation is, if you just guess at one. And there had been 3 grown generations a century after the flood. There would then have been 11 such generations by the time Abraham went to Canaan. It's a long way to go for this. In the genealogical listing from Shem, Abraham is 9th from Shem. However, his 75th year would have allowed 2 more normal generations, even though he himself had no children at the time. If you trust his math, I trust his math. Evidently, it is reasonable to assume 11 generations since the flood at this stage in world history. If each such generation were to experience a 500% increase, that's 5 children per couple, slightly less than did the first generation, then the world population at the time of Abraham, we got to it. We finally got to it. Here it is. The world population at the time of Abraham could have been at least 300 million people.
Wow.
I said all that because it's a big statement, because you might not believe it. So we read through all this. All you got to really know is, he's saying, with his math, that it could be that at the time of Abraham there's 300 million. The time of Babel, maybe 1120. That's not in red though, but just so you know. That's a huge difference, huh?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's a lot of people. Let's go on though and learn some other things.
They took their job seriously.
Yeah. Having kids? Oh, yeah. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Someone read 27?
Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot.
And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. Look at that. Terah begat who? In this order. Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begat Lot. You need to know that. It was in Ur of the Chaldees. So, Terah begat, for those still paying attention, Terah begat Abram, Nahor,
and Haran.
Haran.
And Haran begat
Lot.
Lot. Where?
In
Ur of the Chaldees. I've been to Ur many times. The next writer, presumably Isaac, picked up the narrative at verse 27b by tying his record back to that of Terah, giving the names of his 3 sons again. Terah apparently lived until Isaac was 35 years old. Okay? Assuming Abraham was Terah's oldest son, born when he was 75 years. So, that's interesting. Terah lived until Isaac was 35. Huh. In addition to Abram, Terah was father of Nahor and Haran, both of whose names are associated with cities in Mesopotamia. So Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begat Lot and Ur of the Chaldees. And Nahor and Haran were cities in Mesopotamia. We're almost done. Wow, this is amazing, the time. I only made 3 pages. I just feel special on that. Let's do every other verse. Someone start us.
And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, the father of Iscah.
But Sarai was barren. She had no child.
And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, and his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So the name of Abram's wife, of course, was Sarai, not Sarah yet, and it's Abram, translated to Abraham, of course, and Sarah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this group went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. They came unto the city called Haran, and dwelt there. So where did they go? Ur of the Chaldees to Canaan land, to the city of Haran. Note is made of Sarai's barrenness at this time, so that Abram, unlike Haran and Nahor, had no children in either Ur or Mesopotamia. Well, the child of promise, he says, must be born in the land of promise.
Amen.
Well, interesting. The building of Babel, the confusion of tongues, and the first call of Abram are three remarkable particulars in this chapter. So we have the building of Babel, then we have the confusion of tongues, and here's the first call of Abram. And these led to the accomplishment of the three grand and important designs: the peopling of the whole earth, the preservation of the true religion by the means of one family, through the line of Shem, and three, the preservation of the line uncorrupted by which the Messiah should come. Hold up. Number two, the preservation of the true religion by means of one family. Who's that? Are they the same? Shem? This is Adam Clark's commentary. Yeah, I don't like ending with a confusion. So help me out here. Come on, talk. True religion by the means of one family? Is the one family, is it Noah's family? Is it Shem's? Is there a Faxads?
Well, or Abraham.
Or Abram's? Okay. Well, I'm sure on number two. That's Adam Clark's commentary. So I understood it at the time when I read all he said. But we close off with something from Acts. And he said, "Men, brethren, and fathers, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Charan. Okay. And said unto him, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and come into the land which I shall show thee. Then came he out of the land of the Chaldeans, and dwelt in Charan. And from thence, when his father was dead, he removed him into this land, wherein ye now dwell. And he gave him none inheritance in it, no, not so much as to set his foot on. Yet he promised that he would give it to him for a possession, and to his seed after him, when as yet he had no child." Faith! Faith! Amen? This was Genesis chapter 11. Now we move on into the fun times with the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Amen.